Hey everybody, it's Devin Francis, also known as Leonard Meltzner.
I am the knight.
And you're watching episode 156 of the Adventures in Odyssey Oddcast. What's happening today?
We're going to be reviewing the OIC episode of the month for September, and we're going to be reviewing the first part of the two-part, or 3 funerals and a wedding, with special guest. Ooh, surprises!
Yeah, I guess we might as well wait because we explain it once we get there.
Yeah.
So yeah, no need for that.
You'll be surprised!
So we'll start with The Last Straw, episode 846, written by Marshall Younger, the September episode. And guess what month it is right now that we're reporting this, Victoria?
March.
Yeah. We're super early on this one, guys. Finally, we made it. No, yeah, it's wild. It's like not even the end of September either. It's like smack dab in the middle. And in theory, this episode will go up today if I can edit it in time.
Man, so hard done by having to break off work to play video games all weekend.
A break off work by having a weekend?
Yeah.
So, before we start with The Last Straw, point from last time, I was griping about the Odyssey Zoo and this lack of continuity between the Connellsville Zoo and then we have the Odyssey Zoo.
He was put in his place.
Emily White pointed out that
put him in his place.
We actually did know about the whole zoo thing, and it was like a whole thing because Connellsville Zoo closed. And they gave all their animals to the Mulligans, and that's why the Mulligans have all the animals on the properties, because they got it when the Connellsville Zoo closed, so that's how that happened.
I was with him when he opened up the email, and I saw, the life force drain from his face. Yeah. And he was like, no!
She also pointed out that Vancouver has a zoo, too, or at least the Lower Mainland has one, but I didn't know that. I don't leave my house, so...
You don't leave my house.
Go figure.
My house.
Yeah, whose names are on the checks? That's what I thought.
Mine.
So, Last Straw, what happens?
You spelled house wrong.
Very good, Victoria.
So in The Last Straw, we have 2 plots. One is Connie, and we were just talking about, Connie and how loose she is on the air and
we're always
stuff.
Talking about that, in fairness.
I know, but a lot. A couple episodes ago, and that's the entire one of the plots in this.
The entire half the plot.
The entire half the plot. So, Connie is mean to Red, and then Red gets, nervous when he has to record, but I also think he kind of has, not really stage fright, whatever the equivalent to being on radio.
Stage fright, yeah.
Okay. And then she insults someone's name and
Chlorison.
Chlorison. And then Chlorison calls in and she's like, hey, thanks for insulting me over public radio that everyone can hear. And Connie's like, I'm a horrible person, and Clorison's like, yeah, you are. And then in that plot, Clorison comes over and she's like, hey, Connie, I'm gonna do some self-deprecating humor about my name to show that there's no hard feelings. And I'm like, the Tumblr way out. I see. And so then she completely bails at the last minute and doesn't tell Connie, making Connie the only one who's doing self-deprecating jokes about her name, and then...
So not self-deprecating, just vicious attacks.
Yeah. And then, I forgot her name again.
Chlorison.
Chlorison, starts fake crying on the radio pretty much, and everyone calls in, they're like, Connie, you're a horrible sack of trash. And then Whit comes in, and he's like, get out of my building, Chlorison, you don't belong here. And then they, there's this whole lesson about, once someone apologizes, you gotta forgive them. You don't try to, keep on getting back at him over and over again. It's kind of an inverse of what happens in Broken Armed and Dangerous. And then the other plot is Camilla and Olivia, and Olivia accidentally causes Camilla's like project for school to be ruined.
In the
and
web
then Camilla
quest,
like keeps
it was
on trying
like
to get back at her.
or like
and
it
stuff.
wasn't Olivia's fault that she got distracted, and I'm like,
Yes,
it kind of is her fault.
It is though.
It kind of is her fault that she got distracted.
When I was listening to that, I was thinking like, okay, there are times where I'm like home alone, and people do tell me to do things that need to be done right away. It might like I might forget for like a couple minutes or something like that, but you know what you do? You turn up the volume really loud on whatever it is, and then you go across the house so you can still hear it, or you pull it up on your phone or something if you can. You go do the thing that's going to take 2 seconds to do,
Then why did the chores
and then you
not
come
get done?
back. They do get done.
Do they, though?
Yes.
Do they?
Yes.
Um,
And then Whit tells them to stop. And the episode ends.
we're missing the body of it, like the main...
Well, Olivia and Camilla are like... Olivia's like, no, I'm right. You should stop trying to, like, make me be your slave and stuff to make up for like, the one mistake. And Camilla's like, you deserve to be punished. Because there's this one guy who did this one thing that seemed small, and then he was punished. I'm like, good job for having absolutely zero context. I was imagining that kid who, like, spilt a milkshake, spilt it into the console board of the imagination station, and somehow every single other thing activated applesauce somehow and did 12 other things. Because I was thinking, like, it has to be big for it to be, like, him to be thrown out just for spilling a milkshake. I was like, man, that must have been a really big spill.
So,
Connie never apologized to Red, and that really bothered me.
for which part?
At the beginning of the episode, she's like, Red has all these silly, weird sayings, and he's like...
She didn't say anything insulting to him.
Well, he like... I don't know, he seemed kind of sad. She's like...
What are you talking about? No, he was nervous. She didn't say anything mean, and he didn't feel bad about it. He said he felt put on the spot because she was, like, talking up his turns of phrase so much.
Oh, okay. I thought he was upset.
No, he was scared because she set the bar so high because she was praising him so highly.
Oh. Okay.
Um,
Also, like, you said you had that funny story. No, I never said it was funny. I almost got... What did he say? I
almost got arrested or something.
Yeah, I was thinking, tell this
Charged
story.
for treason
Yeah.
or something like that.
I wanted to hear that story. We never got to.
So, yeah, we open up. Camilla has been working on a double helix for a school project, and Olivia needs to bring it in before the rain and the wind starts blowing. But she's too busy watching the, like, Teen Choice Awards or whatever, because One Way Street is coming on. I don't think we've ever had a boy band parody on this show, have we? Before?
Yes, we have.
No, I mean, like, with the name that's, like, a specific band, like One Way Street being One Direction.
We probably have.
I think we've only had the Pool Boys.
I feel like we've had more than that. But whatever.
I don't think so. So yeah, Olivia's like, yeah, I'll go out and do it right now. And then you know, Zane comes out and she's like, and I'm like...
And she's like, I thought you left the band.
Like,
Zane comes out and announces he's leaving the band.
And then that's why that would be a very valid reason to forget about your sister's science project. But, come on, Olivia. This is why DVRs were invented. Just pause and rewind. We know that you guys have one because in your very first ever episode, you talked all about it because you thought that Matthew erased all the back episodes of your cooking show.
She was probably watching it live, though.
Well, yeah, but she could have DVR'd it so that she could, like, go do that and then watch, like, the, like, live rewind offset whatever and just be, like, 2 minutes behind the live broadcast or something.
I would rather be watching, like, a Twitch stream than have to go find one specific moment in a stream I didn't see. Because those things are, like, 10 hours long.
Yeah, I don't think the Teen Choice Awards are 10 hours long, Victoria. There's a big
true.
difference between watching, like, a broadcast television event and a Twitch stream.
That's true.
A lot
One of them I
differences.
don't watch, and the other one I also don't watch.
So, Connie is doing Candid Conversations with Connie. Excuse me. And she is having Red Hollard on her show to talk about this and that, 'cause she's doing a series on unsung heroes and stuff in town. Personally, I'm surprised that Connie is willing to let Red have back on her show, given what happened last time in Wooten's Broken Pencil show.
I've missed Red.
It's been a while.
I was so happy when I heard his voice.
That also doesn't, like, on that same point, I was confused about his massive stage fright, because he did his, like, whole thing with the window break-in. Okay, kids, time to talk about the nature of reality.
He also did everything with Eugene and the wars.
You're right, Sergeant York was also on the
Yeah.
radio. That's 4 episodes right there.
Do you think, like... No, I was gonna say, do you think he didn't know he was being recorded in Sergeant York, but he did because he constantly did shout-outs?
Maybe he thought it wasn't live, maybe he thought it was pre-taped, I don't know. There's also, my best guess is the fact that it's because he wasn't talking about himself before, and it was like the inward focus.
I mean, there were lots of points where he stopped talking about the story and he started talking about himself. So...
But he wasn't setting out to do it. They arose naturally without him realizing it.
Hey, maybe timeline-wise, this one happens before Sergeant York.
Don't even. No. I think it makes sense, because we even see in this episode, once he's distracted and he doesn't realize what's going on, then he's fine talking about it, obviously. So that's my excuse for the stuff before the stuff now. It makes sense. And then, yeah, Connie is just out here making fun of people's names on the air like that.
It was very crime brain turn of her.
Yeah. She's, like, doing a whole goof on the name of a child who lives in this town.
Who frequents it with Zen.
And in the context of finding out that other kids were making fun of her name.
Yeah.
Connie's like, hey, this is a dog pile I'd like to get myself up on top of.
It's just... I think Clarison's a cool name.
I think it's a very cool name. I do get the disinfectant angle, because lots of bleach-based disinfectants have, like, a chlor prefix at the beginning of them, because bleach is chlorine-based, like Clorox and stuff like that. So I do see why it would sound like that.
Like, I get it, but I still think it's a cool name.
I do
also,
think it's
like,
a cool name.
If... I'm assuming she wasn't lying about, like, the war story behind her name, but it's
maybe, I don't know.
It's a cool story.
Yeah, looking back on it, it's possible that she made it up.
Yeah,
but either way, don't make fun of people's names, Connie.
But, yeah.
And then she's like, I'll just go on the radio, be all self-deprecating humor. When she said
that, I was just like, no, girl, love yourself.
When she described, when she explains to the audience what self-deprecating humor is, she makes it sound even worse. Like, she puts an even more miserable spin on it. And, of this young girl needing to come on the radio and mock her own name so the kids at school will leave her alone. I was really surprised that Whit and Connie were actually okay with her doing that.
Yeah.
I was really surprised that Whit was like, yeah, I guess so. And I was like...
Yeah, self-deprecating humor? Love me some of that. Get on the radio right now.
I love it when other people do that to themselves on my radio station. That's what I'm all about. You know me, John Avery Whitaker. I'm definitely not on Richard Maxwell's I Slap Floor perfume right now.
I talked about how I hated being called Whit all the time when I was younger. I totally feel you, girl. Go out there. Live your best life.
So Clarison gets on the radio, and she has everything lined up. She just sets Connie up and bowls her over.
What was that party thing?
I don't know. They didn't explain it.
I thought, like, that was gonna come back.
Yeah, I know.
I thought it was, like, there were gonna be, like, a party at Wit's End, like, an I Hate Connie party, and that's why and she's like, are you gonna come?
My assumption was just, like, Clarison was throwing a party, and she timed this so that she could get kids to come to her parties, because they wouldn't otherwise. But they never actually kind of explained it, so it was left very vague, which is weird.
That makes sense. I wish that was explained.
She, set up a bunch of plants to call in and ask things, and she set up lists so that she'd get Connie to read them so that she could, bounce off of them and be, all horrified and stuff. She did it pretty well for live radio.
Yeah. Can you imagine Jules listening and she immediately picks up on what's happening without even Connie or Wit saying anything, and she's just like, oh, I'm gonna march over to Wit's End right now and beat her up.
Yeah.
Look after my sister.
So I'm gonna show Chlorison some chlorine-based products. Go all Jeff the Killer, bleach.
Oh
no.
It's she's gonna go to that party with 7-year-olds that has vodka.
She's gonna take the vodka bottle.
Break it over their head.
Yeah. So Wit, everyone comes on and they're arguing on the radio, and then Camilla and Olivia come in and everyone's arguing, and then Wit talks about like repentance versus like, punishment for like unrepented stuff. The politician in the story who misspelled potato he was talking about was Don Quayle, vice president to George Bush Sr.
Did you think of Dad a couple months ago?
A couple months, Victoria.
Or like that.
It happened
this month.
It happened 1 week before I listened to this episode.
So, yeah, our dad did this, and then he was trying to convince us that potato was spelled with an E at the end.
Because he looked up potatoes plural, and he's like, look, I'm like, yeah, it has an E when it's plural.
We got into an argument over it because he was so insistent.
Argument's a strong word.
Like a petty, small teasing.
A disagreement.
But
yeah, we listened to this immediately after we're Don Quayle making the same spelling mistake.
Yeah.
Okay. So, Camilla and Olivia, I really liked.
Camilla was kind of terrible in this episode.
She was super bad.
Have you noticed that Camilla's kind of terrible in most episodes?
She's young.
Yep. So was Mandy when she sold her doll to help the Rathbones.
Okay, Victoria. We can't all be Mandy Strasberg, the second coming incarnate of Jesus, okay? Mandy set a bar that was pretty high, like, right from the get-go.
She's a saint. I love her.
So, I really liked with Camilla and Olivia, they listened to Wit's speech. They listened to the exact same thing, and they both felt completely assured that Wit was on their side.
Yeah, I don't really know how Camilla came to that conclusion.
I mean, it was a little... I could understand in general how she could come to that. Specifically with what Wit said there, it's a little flimsier, but I still get it. But I think that was really good. Like, it speaks a lot to the ways that we read our own, like, confirmation bias into things so quickly. And we try and, justify stuff against itself. It's just like, we were just reading about Saul and all of his self-justifications to Samuel. It's a very similar kind of note. But yeah, I really like... Especially followed up by Wit talking about, like, the Bible isn't supposed to be used as a punching glove or a boxing glove.
It's funny because the scene just, like, cuts right after they say, like, let's go talk to Wit. And then it cuts, and then they're just screaming Bible verses at each other. Both, like, no lead into the scene. So I like to think they just, like, ran up to Wit, and they started yelling verses, and he was just like... Are you trying to show me how good you are at memorizing?
They were trying to attack each other. They were trying to like, where your treasure is.
Yeah.
Each other by, like, calling down.
But they're not the Avatar.
Yeah.
They'll never be the Avatar.
No.
They can't do that.
Yeah, no, that was an excellent, like, lesson for people to be able to see, like, oh, people can look at the exact same message or the exact same verses and take completely opposite meanings away from them if they're listening to it, like, in isolation or without, sage counsel, context, exegesis, etc.
Wait, that girl from Where Your Treasure Is, was it ever announced she was going to be in another episode?
No.
Okay, I think I just had a good dream one time.
Okay.
Where we saw, like, a list
She's not
of
even
future
real.
episodes. Yeah, I know. And then it said, like, she's going to be in another episode. Like, someone else goes into the imagination station and goes on, like, another adventure with her.
To the same town?
Yeah, and, like, they do the same thing with the Bible, and you and I were, like, so
It's the same episode again?
Well, that was a different story, and I had a different kid, but she had the same powers.
Okay,
No, maybe it was, like, they Sam'd it, and then she came out of and she was like a real person, but she still had the powers in her life.
I see.
She's not allowed not having the powers. She's too cool. She's too cool not to have them. It's a good episode.
So, Connie finally is able to lay the Clarkson gate to rest. And I just love, like, as Connie's just trying to, like, I just want to get through the program. I love softly exasperated Connie. She just wants to get through one normal show on topic for once without any grand revelations or spilled secrets.
And then Mitch calls in. He's like, I love Maureen.
Or aired grievances or aired forgivenesses, I guess, in this case. This is, like, still not even in the top 5 worst episodes for Connie's sanity, so that's a win, I guess.
Or worst episodes about her program on the radio.
Yeah. And for the video documentaire, we have people talking about mistakes that they made, including Kimmy Robertson, Justin Felbinger, Amy Pemberton, and Bob runs a fake radio show that he's bad at. And this guy talks about his childhood.
Is that the official Adventures in Odyssey podcast?
Wow, Victoria.
That was a joke.
Coming out here like Connie calling out other podcasts.
That was part of the joke.
Victoria has issued a challenge, a duel with Nathan Hubler.
No, that was part of the joke. I don't think it's bad. I used to watch all the episodes. Listen to all the episodes of that.
There's this guy, and he talks about his childhood, getting into mischief, and then how he came to Jesus, and that brought stability into his life and stuff. Talk about repentance, all that.
I had to make the joke. I had to. It was right there.
It says in the web quest, which I thought was cool, all 3 of the 2017 finalists for Get in the Show were in this episode.
Wait, what?
So Grayson Smith, who was in the live show
in November. Were they the girls who called in?
Grayson Smith.
Oh, and Grayson was probably the kid who got kicked out of its end.
Grayson Smith was the announcer for the Teen's Choice Awards, who said that when One Way Street was coming out. Lucas, the milkshake spiller, was Dalen Stewart. And Bethany Rack was Brittany, a caller in to Candid Conversations.
2.
Yes.
Heck yeah. Who was the other kid then? Just a random kid?
I just said who all 3 of them were.
No, I mean like the caller, and there were 2 girls that called.
They just had other people.
They
had more than 2 throughout the episode too.
No, I mean like 2 girls called in twice. There was Brittany and then the other one, and they were both the ones that were going to go to the party. Brittany was, one maybe wasn't. Because she was too distraught by Connie's meanness.
It's true. I was distraught. I was like, wow, this is... As soon as, like, Connie got one word into what she was doing, I was like, there's no way this can possibly be going where it looks like it's going. There's no way Connie would do this.
I feel
in this year, after these...
year of our Lord, 2018.
After these 30 years of character development, there is no way Connie will get on public access radio and make fun of a child's name.
I think it was because, not that I'm excusing her or anything, but I think it was because she just needed to say literally anything to diffuse the tension with Red not saying anything. Well, and so she just said, like, the first stupid thing that came out of her mouth.
I'll grant you that. But as you said, she needed to say anything. And she could have said anything except for that.
You know what it reminded me of, like, one of the first OAC episodes? Do you remember that?
One of the first OAC episodes? Yes.
Like, we reviewed. And then I insulted someone's name, and then you told me.
That was the very first one, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that was the launch.
Yeah. I said that someone's name sounded silly, and you said it.
Yeah, it was Dr. Sparks' husband's name.
Yeah, his name was Waffle. And then...
Was that what it was?
Yeah. And then I said, that's a funny name. And then you told me I was mean.
Yeah.
And so when... Yeah, and then I apologized like 6 times. Mm-hmm. And then...
I'm sure he was watching.
Yeah, you've made that comment before. And then, so when Connie started like, she got, like, one word in. I was like, girl, no. I was like, no. Don't. I did it
Don't
once.
join me in this pit of despair.
I did it once, and I felt bad for years. Literally, ever since that episode, I felt bad about that. So, like,
and you learned your lesson, apparently.
Don't do it. And then she did. Now she's gonna feel bad forever, just like me.
Hopefully she's also learned her lesson.
Oh, the next episode we're gonna review, Connie bullies 2 girls because they didn't come to her Bible study.
In fairness, they kind of bullied her first. They were like, hey, we just came here to make a bet at your expense. See ya.
They made a bet about how quick she would bully them. It's a vicious cycle.
Okay.
I think the 3 funerals and a wedding reviews that we did in this episode and, like, the next one we're gonna do for part 2 are 2 of my favorite reviews we've ever done. I don't know about you.
Pretty alright.
I thought they were pretty funny.
We did a pretty good job.
I just thought I was very funny in them. I'm probably the only one who did, though.
You had some good jokes.
Thank you. All my jokes are always good. What are you talking about? I'm hilarious. I don't have anything else to say.
So,
who does Justin Fulbing?
Matthew.
Who does Amy Pembroke?
Renee.
She is not in this episode.
Nope. Neither's Matthew.
When that kid, Lucas, said that he was
Neither's Kimmy. None of them are in this episode.
Yeah. When Lucas was kicked out of Wits End, I thought it was Matthew for a hot minute.
Because who knows what he sounds like these days. He gets this from his father, I
Honestly,
imagine.
I was like, is that Matthew? And then they're like, that's not Matthew. I'm like, all the voices sound the same because there's like 50 Matthews. You could put literally any, like, kid in front of the booth at this point, and I believe that they're Matthew regardless of what they sound like, because I just don't know anymore.
I miss you, Zach.
I miss Zach. You just have to play
okay. He's out
Steven
there.
Universe and Odyssey at the same time.
He's out there living his best life.
Living that life, singing those songs. Beautiful voice that boy has.
Captured by White Pearl, and man.
Do you need a moment?
It's just like...
Because I'm not going to give you one. We're talking about Odyssey.
Look what's literally, like, open right now that I was replying.
I love that face.
That was great.
This is timely.
It was timely. Yeah, no,
It's a good picture.
It's really good.
Anyway, what do you rate this episode?
I haven't talked about final thoughts yet.
Oh, okay.
You know, it was slice of life. It was pretty average. It was one of those things where it's like we have some kids that learned a lesson that probably isn't going to carry forward in any meaningful way in the future.
Not for Camilla.
Or for Olivia.
I feel like
Thorson's never going to appear again.
I hope not. I feel like Camilla's only had maybe 1 or 2 episodes that actually had a lasting impact on her development. Like that one where she was just like, I want to grow closer to God. And then there's like a noticeable change in all future episodes where like all of her lessons are like more based on her like wanting to do things spiritually by like of her own volition.
I feel like she didn't even really have any episodes that focused on her prior to that.
No, she did. But they were like album 51 episodes and stuff.
No, she had ones where she was a big character. Yeah, that's what I mean.
It was
she had
usually
ones
like between her and Olivia.
Exactly. I don't think there were any episodes prior to that that were focused on Camilla more than any other character.
There's
only ones where she was co-starring equally with other.
There's Anger Mismanagement.
Yeah, that doesn't star her though.
Yeah, but she's a star of like the A plot.
That's her and Olivia.
Olivia's in the B plot. Actually, I'm not sure if like Olivia's that
Matthew.
big in it. I think it's like someone else.
Anger Mismanagement is the one with Wooten and Valerie and Miss Kramer, and I think Matthew breaks the oscilloscope. Wait, no, it was that Forgiving More or Less.
That's Forgiving More or Less. Anger Mismanagement, I think, is about Camilla. But, like, all of her lessons were, like, really base level, kind of just ones you'd see in, I don't know, Saturday morning cartoons or something like that. But, like, not good Saturday morning cartoons. Really average ones. And then and then she got episodes like The Perfect Testimony and stuff, where there's a marked improvement.
Is it Your Servant is Listening? Yeah, that started it, and then there was More Than a Feeling kind of followed up on that.
Yeah, I feel like
thereafter.
More Than a Feeling has had the biggest impact on her character.
Jesus!
Why can't I cheer for Jesus the way you cheer for your sports team, Dad? Well, when you put it that way, I'm gonna go outside and stare at sandwiches.
If that is even your real name.
I knew you'd say that, you dumb horse. I don't know why I said that, I just wanted to.
Which is funny, because then in my mind brings it back to Steven Universe again, with Amethyst. Yeah, this was it was a very run-of-the-mill episode.
I didn't think people would be able to turn that quote into a meme.
So
it's just, like...
versatile, surprisingly.
Like, I don't know, it's so isolated, but apparently it's not, and I was completely wrong.
Aren't you glad that we got to witness that in person?
Yes, I barely remember it, though. I was, like, super pumped up on adrenaline.
It was, like, 10 months ago now.
Yeah.
Oh.
I love John Mulaney. He's the only comedian I like who's not dead. I was just watching Robin Williams stuff and it made me sad.
Chelsea Peretti is pretty good.
Oh yeah, she's really good too. So's Jake. I always forget what his real name is. Andy Samberg.
Yeah. So, I'm gonna give this episode 3 out of 5.
I'm gonna give this episode 2.7 out of 5.
You know what? I'm gonna give it a 3.5 because even though I feel like there wasn't really any...
I think the lesson was
Even though I feel like there wasn't really any high stakes, nothing that's really gonna matter or carry forward in the future in terms of plot or character development, and the fact that the general lesson was kind of like, repetitious and obvious, kind of like, repent, forgive people. If people have repented, then forgive them. That kind of like obvious thing. But like I said, the whole like pointing out the fact that people can look at the same scripture and like at the exact same time hear it the exact same way and come out of it with completely opposite things according to their confirmation bias is like a really good thing for kids to kind of see and be like, oh, huh. Like realizing that just because you look at a scripture and you interpret it that way doesn't mean that you're interpreting it the right way, which is why...
You pick a horse
which is why we need to
a needle.
Like study it a lot closer. It's not just about like academic study of it as a text, but about reading through it with the Holy Spirit for guidance in interpretation and stuff like that is important for kids to understand. It reminds me of the Book of Eli.
The movie?
Which I and many other people that I know loved who are Christians. But there's one guy I was talking to who is also Christian, and he said he didn't like the movie because he felt like the message was the Bible is like a dangerous tool that can be used for evil because like the bad guys were like trying to get it so they could use it to manipulate people. And it was like, I mean, I think overall it goes to show how powerful the Bible is as a tool because everyone is after it and the bad guys know that they can manipulate people with it because it is such a powerful tool that they want to try and take and corrupt. But the good guys also want to take it and spread it because they know what a powerful force for peace it could be in this Mad Max-esque wasteland dystopia. Yeah.
Become a beekeeper.
I was just about to say, you look like Dark Kermit.
I'm Kermit Nort. I now have the tag on Tumblr, become a beekeeper, and I'm so happy.
And that post you reblogged about bees, according to the description, had nothing to do with that video.
No, like, I typed in on Tumblr this morning Kingdom Hearts bees, and there were, like, a ton of posts, and all of them were years and years old. And I was like, this is hilarious.
Interesting.
I'll show you after.
That's alright.
Someone did Axel's theme and drew him as bees, but it was just his theme, but kazoos, and it sounded like 1,000 angry bees trying to murder Roxas.
You gave your rating, right?
Yeah, 2.7.
7 is what you said.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about 3 Funerals and a Wedding, Victoria. The great
Special
classic episode.
Guest.
Excellent story, excellent book of the Bible. So let's delve into that right now. So we're back now. Guys, we have a special guest.
Special guest.
We have a friend with us.
He's my friend.
To help us.
My friend.
We can't see her right now. I assume Gabe is waving at the camera or some such.
Oh, I can wave.
I don't know. Yeah.
She's beautiful.
It's annoying that we can't see you.
Show appreciation. Everyone
It
clap.
has been 112 episodes since Gabe has been on the podcast, right? Yes. 112 episodes. But Gabe is finally back to talk about 3 Funerals and a Wedding, part 1, and later part 2, a month from now, episode 360 for part 1, written by Phil Lawler. Because the 3 of us do devotions together every night, and we just finished going through Ruth, and we're like, hey, 3 Funerals, a Wedding is an amazing episode.
It is.
And we've never reviewed it, and so we should do that. But since Gabe went through it with us, and also...
She's trapped here, too.
Exactly, and
in
since
this pact that
she
we've
also
made together, this blood ritual
has
pact.
a precedent of being on this show very, very long time ago.
Yeah. She was here for our last great adventure, the summer review. Do you remember that?
I do. I don't know if I was even wearing glasses at that point, but I
don't
was there.
think you were.
So, because you had a whole bit in there about replacing me because my flight didn't make it in.
Yeah.
Was that Thanksgiving?
Oh, yeah. It
Yeah.
might have been.
So,
It
was
probably
that Thanksgiving? So, it would have been my second year at UBC?
I was
We were in high school.
Yet. I was in Selkirk that year, I think, so...
Okay.
No, I didn't come home for Thanksgiving, though.
Oh, then it was our grad year, I guess.
Or Christmas time.
No,
But it was a
I think
September
it was
review.
Thanksgiving.
Because it was with 30 J's past September. It was Christmas.
Yeah, but
Okay,
we
I was
were
home for
always
Christmas.
late with
It wasn't,
recording.
because I've never come home for Thanksgiving. Who would come home for Thanksgiving?
You've come home for Thanksgiving.
It's too
before.
long.
You did 1 year.
The first year?
Yeah.
Okay, it was my first year then.
So...
No, because the AIOC, because it couldn't be
Man,
the first
this
year
really
with the
makes
podcast.
for some good podcasting,
Yeah, guys.
doesn't
It was the second year we were doing the podcast.
Okay.
So I was my second year at UBC, which is my third year of uni. So you would have been in grade 12.
Makes sense.
Man, this is entertaining to
Yeah.
listen to.
Thank you for staying with us. Okay,
Everyone's already left.
Okay.
What are you talking? That means we can do whatever we want.
3 Funerals and a Wedding, Part 1, Episode 360, written by Phil Lawler.
So this episode opens up with Connie at Wit's End, and then Courtney and Jenny come in, and she's like, "Nuh-uh, not getting away from me. Why weren't you at Bible study the other night?" And then they're like, "It's 'cause the Bible's boring," and Connie's like, "Oh yeah?" And then she throws a Bible at their faces, and she's like, "Come read this story with
Except
me."
it's not. It's like, the Bible's not boring enough. There's too much action, too much drama.
They're like, "We need romance," and Connie's like, "Yeah, okay, uneducated children, come with me and let me educate you." So then she tells them the story of Ruth, and this is the first half, which is only like book 1 out of 4 of Ruth.
Chapter 1.
Yeah, chapter
Chapter.
1. That's what I meant.
It's like Avatar.
It like lengthens out the events of the first chapter of Ruth quite a bit.
Quite a bit.
Not much happens in that. So we get Boaz and Naomi, and Malin and
Jillian.
Jillian?
Mhm.
Oh, I thought it was Julian. I was way off. I was like, why are they saying Julian so weirdly?
We just read it with our eyes
That was
on
like
words.
weeks ago, though.
It was like a week ago.
And so then they're like, oh, this place has a drought. We're gonna go to a place that's doing a little bit better. We're gonna go to Moab, but no one likes that. And then they like figure out some stuff with their relatives, and Boaz is gonna watch their property while they're gone. And then like the sons marry people from like some Moabite woman, one of whom is Ruth, and then the sons and Boaz like die almost immediately.
Over the course of 10
basically.
years.
Over the course of 10 years. Oh, that's longer than I thought it was. Yeah, almost immediately over the course of 10 years. And then they're like, the three survivors are like, well, let's go back now that we're doing a little bit better in our original home. And then one of the women whose name I always forget. Orpah, thank you. She does not last long, so Ruth is like, no, I have to be the last man standing. We need to go back. And then she gives her speech, and it almost made me cry into my breakfast, because I'm a very tough warrior male.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then the episode ends with Naomi and Ruth traveling back. And then Jenny and Courtney are like, man, that story was so good. But, like, is there more? And Connie's like, yeah, but I'm not telling you. Later, suckers! And then she leaves, and I'm like, why can't they just read it themselves?
She's like a BuzzFeed article. She's like, sorry, you have to click through a whole bunch of links to generate ad revenue if you want to read the rest of this story.
I was thinking, like, how funny would it be in the next episode if, like, they went to Bible study and Connie finished telling them the story, and then, like, they're like, that story was so good, Connie, and then they're walking out, and you can hear them whisper to each other, like, should we tell her that we read it immediately
They can't.
after?
That's not going to hear you.
Should we tell her that we read it immediately after? And then Courtney's like, no. Just let her think we didn't.
I think the conceit of the episode is interesting for a couple reasons. Like, I like how they didn't allow Courtney and Jenny to just fall into, the like, oh, we're not like other girls, like, oh, we want to see just like the women being action and powerful and stuff like that, which of course is amazing, but they're like, hey, we get it, like there are so many strong and amazing women in the Bible, but we also want to see like more multifaceted stuff too. And because you would think that the most obvious thing would be for them to be like, yeah, it's all the men's story, we want to hear more stories about women, and they're like, no, we get that we have stories about women too, but we want to see women in more roles, okay? It's not just like the like strong women TM, but we want to see more like emotionally diverse situations and stuff like that.
This two-parter is like a reverse Princess Bride in my mind. Where, like, they're like, oh, we want a romance story, and then, like, action stuff.
Where's all the kissing?
They're like, where's all the kissing? They're like, is this a kissing book? And it's just, it's very good.
That's actually the subtitle in the Tanakh. Ruth, a kissing book.
Gabe, what were your initial thoughts?
I like how they, like, brought up the fact that there's a reason, like, that Ruth followed Naomi all the way to some country that she's never been to, and like Naomi really became like her mom. I like that.
Also, was Ruth an orphan? Because
I imagine so, because she was living with her uncle, right?
This is my niece.
Well, she said that her mom died.
Oh, right. Yeah.
She didn't say anything about her dad.
But if her uncle is giving her away in marriage, then one would assume so.
She's like, I have new parents, and then her father-in-law instantly dies, and she's like, darn it!
Yeah, I'll get to that in a minute. Before this story even starts, like, just the opening scene with the three of them in Wits End. First off, Connie, you've got to admire her tactlessness that she can just ask the girls why they missed Bible study only 30 seconds into the conversation. Like, it's only second to the tactlessness of the girls dropping that and then trying to immediately leave. Like, their sole purpose in coming was to just make a bet at Connie's expense and then peace out of Wits End.
I was
And
thinking,
they're
like,
this is fine.
man,
Connie's
Connie,
gonna let this happen.
it's almost like people could have a big test the next morning that they have to study for, or maybe they both got sick or something like that, and Connie's like trying to guilt trip them and stuff. I like love Jenny in these two episodes and like how they talk about like really casually about the fact that she's blind and stuff.
Yeah.
Like it's not a big deal. And I remember like since we got this in Bible Witnesses pack.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So these were like some of
The first episodes.
yeah, some of the first episodes we ever listened to. So I've heard them like a billion times. And I remember like since we just got like random packs with random episodes that we listened to all the time when we were little, and then we like gradually got all of the golden episodes.
Mm-hmm.
For the longest time, I thought that this was Jenny Whittaker Dowd, and I was just like, "Wait, did she go blind? Does she return after like a really long period of not being present, and she goes blind?"
That is reasonable, because before I was thinking like, oh yeah, there's two Jennys. There's like Jenny Whittaker Senior and Jenny Roberts, but I forgot about like young Jenny.
It's because she's only like 3 episodes, and she's never heard from
That's
again.
fair. Rest in pieces, Jenny. I'm sorry,
Rest
Monty,
in
that you're an
pieces.
only child.
Monty wanted it this way. For all we know, Monty's the one who took Jenny out.
Oh no.
So he could be in more episodes.
Green Ring Conspiracy.
He's like, I'll be in more
too.
episodes than her. I'll be better at something.
No,
Shout out to their library for having a Braille Bible.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
Yeah.
that's one of my my next notes is like I really like how with characters like Jenny and Lisa that we can have episodes that aren't about or centered on their blindness, but there's still there's consistently scattered references to it, and they make it clear like the accessibility options that are available for them, like the fact that Wit keeps Braille Bibles stocked in the library at Wit's End.
And
I just really like the normalization of those lines.
I know that this is part of part 2, but I'm going to say it now anyway before I forget. Leave me alone. The reason that they're eventually late for the Bible study at the beginning of part 2 is because Jenny's jerk brother steals her cane, which is another reason why I thought it was
wanting to talk
Monty.
about that. I was like, I'll wait patiently for like part 2, and then you brought it up.
I was like, Monty stole Jenny's cane!
I was going to bring up in the part 2 that I was like, since when does Jenny Roberts have a brother? Do you remember a brother ever being mentioned in Pen Pal?
No, neither. Like, her parents are mentioned. And,
Yeah, they're in it. Her parents and Jenny are all in the episode, and they
I
talk
was
about the
gonna
process of
say,
moving, never mention having a brother.
In Perfect Witness, her parents were mentioned again. I'm assuming she is, like,
Or the perfect
the
witness.
Perfect Witness. She must have, like, a very, very young brother who doesn't think about
Who knows how
what
to
a
play pool?
jerk move it is to
Like, you'd have to
steal
have a
someone's
pool
cane.
table at your house, otherwise he's going out to, like, a billiards place
It's
with her
trouble
cane to play
with
pool.
the capital T in Odyssey.
Going out to smoke and play billiards, like in the music.
Trouble with the
videos.
capital T that rhymes with S, and that stands for stealing your sister's blindness cane,
You
so she can't go to Bible study.
jerk.
Yeah,
that could have been their excuse in the beginning of this episode.
Yeah.
He stole my cane and I couldn't leave the house. It was horrible.
Yeah, Courtney had to give me a piggyback all the way here just to get lemonade.
Oh.
The sacrifices of friendship.
Also, what day is this? Do they say what day of the week this is?
I don't think so.
Do they say what night
No.
Bible study is? I feel like they
It's
did.
Connie's
Tuesday.
Tuesday night Bible study.
Okay. So I'm assuming like this happens on a Wednesday, and then she makes them wait like an entire week.
You think it's the day after? I don't think there's any hint that it's the day after the Bible
I
study.
don't know, it always... Unless they were avoiding Wit's End.
Yeah.
Perfect case opportunity.
There are other things to do in Odyssey, Victoria. I know it doesn't seem like it.
Like, the most fortunate thing for Courtney and Jenny would be is if this was Tuesday afternoon, like the next Tuesday.
Yes.
And then they could just hear the rest of the story in like an hour. Although it would also be like, it's only going to be an hour from now. Why can't you just tell us?
Yeah.
Also, I like how Connie... I know, like, they... Well, actually, I was going to say, Connie just, like, picks up the story of Ruth and then instantly ends it for everyone else in the Bible study. Except for then I was also thinking, like, well, the summary that... Was it Courtney gave, or did Jenny give it?
I think Jenny gave it.
Jenny.
Okay, yeah, and then Courtney was like, and this means this.
Yeah.
Which would be
Jumping
me.
for joy. Joy of Jehovah. Yeah, that.
But I was thinking, like, but I guess the summary that Jenny gave is about as short as the first chapter of Ruth.
Exactly,
so
yeah.
it does work out.
She's like, here's the very cut down version that is the one that's actually in the Bible. Yeah, that comes to my next point, which is I really like how embellished Connie made the story to fit into her dramatic, passionate, romantic exploits thread. And, I mean, in fairness, though, she does, like, acknowledge it, at least, at the beginning. She's like, guys, you have to use a little bit of imagination and stuff. I also like how she pulls on the context at the end of Judges to set the, like, the social and moral tone of Israel, instead of just looking at it in isolation.
When we were reading Judges, we, like, in our devotions, we really took note of, like...
Connie's bit here, and the highlighting of that, like, repetition of that phrase in the last couple chapters of Judges.
It gets to the point where, like, every single chapter starts off with that same phrase, and then the last chapter of Judges ends with that phrase instead of starting with it.
Yeah, in those days, there was no judge in Israel. Everyone did what they thought was right. Which we pointed out in our devotions, but of course we just stole it from this episode, and now Gabe knows that. So
she knows that we're cheats and liars.
Everyone knows that everything we say to sound smart, we just stole from Odyssey.
Yeah. I was thinking, like, man, episodes like this with Ruth and, like, Bernard and Esther are so much better than, like, any movie that's been made about those stories, because they always lengthen them, and they make them just, like, really Hollywood usually cast a lot of white people.
Which they never do on Odyssey.
Every single role, even though that doesn't make any sense. And also, I remember, I haven't seen, like, a movie version of Ruth, I don't think, but I did watch one of Esther, and I think it was called One Night with the King, or something like that.
Well, I think I've seen that one.
Yeah.
They go back and forth. I've seen quite a few Esther ones because my mom really likes that story. I mean, I also do. So
yeah, you borrowed our copy of One Night. I
thought you were gonna say they go back in time to, like.
I mean, they are back in time already.
I've seen, like, a couple good ones, and then I've seen a couple bad ones and some mediocre ones. I've seen, like, one Ruth movie. It was okay.
I remember, like, One Night with the King, Esther had, like, this necklace, and if you, like, put a flashlight in front of it...
I saw that one with you guys. I was at your house. That's when I saw it.
Oh, yeah, we watched it together. That makes sense.
You weren't
there. It was a girls' night. But she, like, has this necklace, and if she holds it in front of a flame, it, like, projects all these Jewish symbols all over the walls and stuff.
Is it like the Da Vinci Code?
Like the fire shines, like the light goes through it, and it just, like, projects all these, like, different symbols and stuff, and it, like, the Jewish, like, Star of David.
So it was like a prototype of, like modern Canadian currency.
And she's, like, always wearing it, and she's just like, it's very important to me, but I can't let anyone know that I'm a Jew.
So just literally wearing it on, well,
then, like,
maybe not saying wearing it on my sleeve, that has very, like, Holocaust implications.
No, but, like, at the end, at the final dinner, she's just like, I need to tell you something. He's like, what? And she's like, I'm Jewish, and she holds it up and, like, projects the Star of David everywhere, and I'm like, this is so extra, and also, what the frick? That's not how it would happen in any way.
It has such,
it was so funny unintentionally.
That's so, like, national treasury, like.
She's just like, I need you to protect me or I'm gonna die, and I know I'm supposed to take it seriously, but I'm just like, I have tears going down my face because I'm, like, laughing so hard, and I'm like, what is this?
That does sound about historically accurate as what's their face is getting sent to the island of perpetual tickling.
I was
trying
like
to
13
murder
or
Xerxes.
I was like 13 or something like that, and I still knew it was like stupid.
Yeah, I remember that one being a little interesting.
Yeah, I remember like the next couple days, every single time I saw Mom, I was like, Mom, why did they do that? And she was like, I don't know, it's because they did. And she's
I
like,
think the actor was also like as pale as me.
oh yeah,
which
she
is
was like
impressive.
super
Yeah,
white.
I can picture Mom watching this with her summa cum laude theology degree, just sitting there like,
I think Mom said to me, like, the third time I asked her about it, she's like, sometimes you just have to accept that Hollywood does these things, and they change it, and we can't do anything about it, because the movie's already been made for several years.
That's about as funny as I could picture, like, a modification being to that story.
I'll try and find a clip for you later. It is so funny.
It used to be on Netflix, I think. They used to have a lot of them on there.
So,
It's so fun. It's so over the
Topic a little.
top in, like, every way.
so they're reading through the story together. It's clear that they're reading along in Bibles as they're going while Connie is telling the story. Which is funny then, given that Jenny and Courtney are reading along in Ruth as Connie's narrating, that they never begged the question in the first part of like, wait a minute, I'm not seeing like Oren come up anywhere in here, or this meeting with like Boaz to give him the property in chapter 1, especially Oren, who doesn't even have a name anywhere.
That explains
He does
a lot, 'cause
exist,
I was
but he
thinking,
doesn't have
like,
a name.
they said Oren. I was thinking, like, I don't remember them calling him Oren in the Bible.
Yeah, Boaz is just like, there is one who is closer related than I, but he doesn't have a name. Which, I mean, it's fair that they gave him a name, but it's funny just at picturing the girls, like, reading along as Connie's narrating. And they're like, it's hard enough reading when everyone has a different translation. You try to follow along what's happening. And they're like, Connie, I think you have, like, a very different translation than we have.
I like when everyone dies in one sentence and then she drags it out. Like,
Mm-hmm.
You know, it was so painful to hear because he's, like, gasping for breath, and I'm like, he's played by Walker Edmondson.
I know, it was sad.
And it really hurt my heart. Gabe Walker played a couple of the main characters in Odyssey, and he passed away several years ago.
It's like a decade now.
It feels like...
It has
Well,
been
I
a
guess-
decade. Oh my goodness.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, it's a lot longer than I thought ago.
No, I remember the first time I read through Ruth myself, and that was after having listened to this episode a billion times. So it's like, I finally find out, like, what's the actual story. And I read chapter 1, and I was like, wow, that was fast. Like, they dragged that out into a whole episode.
Ruth was the first book of the Bible I ever read, but I read it, like, a really, really long time ago.
I think Joshua was mine. Because in Josh's Sunday school class, he had a thing where there was, like, a challenge to read the whole book of Joshua.
that
Why
sounds
does
like
that
something
not
Josh would
surprise
do.
Actually,
I think
Ruth
I straight up started with Genesis.
Ruth is still the only book of the Bible I've gone all the way through, because I started, like, on chapter 7 of Judges.
Oh, yeah, I was going to say, but we already went through at least... Oh, wait, that was also Ruth. So, yeah, fair.
We went through, like, Judges, and then Ruth, and now we're in Samuel, and we haven't finished Samuel, so Ruth is still the only book I've completely gone through.
You haven't even
I got
read any of the ones that are, like, one chapter long?
Wait, there was
Esther's really quick too.
There's a bunch
Oh,
of...
there's some other half a page.
Yeah.
What?
2nd and 3rd John, Obadiah, Philemon. There's like
You can read like the New Testament in a day. I read like the first. I basically read what would be the Torah on a car trip.
Mm-hmm.
I got really car sick.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
That was, in fairness,
Gabe, you
that
don't
wasn't...
do well in a car when you're not reading.
In fairness, you weren't sick because of the volume of words that you read. That was just the amount of chapters in Leviticus that talk about, like, the colors of growths and moles and hairs that grow out of them on your body.
Gross.
Coupled with, like, what to do with different colors of mold growing on your walls.
Okay, let's talk about something more pleasant, like Boaz.
Yes.
I like how they never mention that Boaz is drunk in certain places in this story.
I like how the first time Boaz shows up in part 1, and like
He like brings a stool. He just has it. I love that. And then he's just like, here, I have this stool for you.
He just pulls it out of his inventory.
And there's like, it doesn't sound like he sat up at any point. Like, he was just like standing there the whole time. And then he just waited to just pull out this stool. And I was like, I love him so much.
Well, that would be a lot more normal than if he was sitting on the stool while all of the other elders were standing up around him, and he's just like, just chilling there. He's like, I don't know why I was the only one who thought to bring a chair here.
I mean, he was.
To the outskirts of town. Yeah, they, on the one hand, it's like they really lay it on thick how, like, Disney Prince Boaz is, but I really like, on the other hand, how, like, cruel and obviously evil they make Oren. Like,
when we actually read the book, he didn't actually seem that bad. And then he's like, I'll get your land.
I brought up in part 2, but they really make him, like, the archetypical movie, like, the wealthy oil baron trying to steal the rec center's land to build a golf course. They're like, he'll be back as soon as he comes up with another plot to steal our land. Like, it's such a, like, cartoonish evil.
I just love, like, the idea of, like, a really cartoonishly evil man stomping around and yelling at things, only wearing one boot, and just walking around town.
Twiddling his handlebar mustache. He brings up the allowances in Mosaic law to buy someone's family land to settle debts and stuff, where a kinsman redeemer would later be able to buy it back once the payments could be made, or if that happened, the land would be automatically returned from Oren back to Elimelech's family, I'm pretty sure, at the year of... I don't think it's the year of Jubilee, I think it's the year of, like, Uber Jubilee, which is, like, every 49 years.
Yeah, that would make sense.
So even if he had got the land, he would have had to give it all back to them within, like, max half a century to their family.
I didn't know that part.
For free, too. Like, he would just have to give it back. You have to return everyone's land to...
Oh, that would kind of suck.
To them. Well, don't worry, the Bible makes a whole bunch of rules on how to, like, scale the rate of, like, interest for loans and stuff according to the proximity of the year of Jubilees. Exactly, so you can't rig the loans or, like, property selling so that you can, like, get a bunch of money and get the stuff back or whatever and use it to scam people. So it's like, scale it against this many years if this much is left and stuff so that everything is proportional so it's fair. It's surprisingly complicated, actually.
That's actually pretty good, because, like, 49
Yeah, there's a lot of math.
Years.
I like math, so I was like, this is pretty interesting.
It is, yeah.
Laws.
And the year of Jubilee is such a cool concept that I wish we could have. Like, just time when it's like, hey, you know what? Everyone's forgiven. Anyone who is, like, working indebted or in slavery is free. Anyone who has had their, like, possessions or their land repossessed gets it back. All financial debts are forgiven every 7 years.
Why don't we have this nowadays?
So they trade sandals. Boaz is going to look after the land. I've always wondered if, like, do you carry an extra sandal with you if you plan on making a deal? Or if you just walked home barefoot? Or do you, like, actually trade sandals? And they didn't really talk about that. Like, you swap. And then also, here's the thing that I don't get even more. Clearly, you needed to be able to prove to others that the shoe belonged to that person. Like, did everyone have such iconic footwear to their personal brand that they're instantly recognizable? Or did they carve their initials into the sole like they're going to summer camp? I don't know. What if your feet aren't the same size?
I just like to imagine everyone's shoes look identical, but they know whose shoes are whose instantly. Like Haru and his bathing
take a whiff.
Yeah.
Yep, this is Elimelech's.
This was 3,000 years ago, Victoria. Everyone had a very strong and distinctive smell. You knew exactly whose shoe that was.
Like,
did they wear the sandals?
They had so much free time. They just memorized what everyone's shoes looked like, so they just knew.
It's like, oh, you have the number 7 2017 Fall Spring Collection Nike Air Jordans with, like, light-up soles. Oh, those were Elimelech's, of course.
Can we agree?
We all remember he has them, because when he walked home in the dark, we could see the strobing lights behind him.
I want Lauren to have light up Skechers.
Jasper in Camp could never make deals with anyone because he couldn't bear to part with his shoes.
See, he burned his shoes.
Yeah, but before he
Yeah.
died. Rest in peace, Griffin.
He better come back.
He's a ghost. Of course he's gonna come back.
Yeah, but they made it sound like he's gone this time permanently, and you don't come back.
So, we move to Moab. I don't understand particularly how Elimelech set up this deal with Nadal all the way over in Moab, because he clearly wasn't traveling over there a bunch. Like, his family didn't have any clue what was going on.
They used camel mail.
Yeah, I was like, was it snail mail, camel mail,
It's like
WhatsApp?
bird mail, but you put it in the camel's mouth and hope that it doesn't, like, open its mouth.
You tie
or
it to the pigeon's
spit
leg,
it out
and then you
or
put the
eat it.
pigeon inside the camel's mouth, and then you send it.
I presume around that time you would usually send word by traders, so a trader is already going that way, so you send things with them
That
and
makes
hope
sense.
for the best.
That makes sense.
But they have had
That's
town
what usually-
mailers.
Criers?
Yes.
Yeah,
It's-
because I was like, surely he wasn't doing like, oh, I'm going to Moab for business all the time. Because one, that's probably not a thing that was happening in Israel. They weren't really associating with Moab a lot. Also, the family would have suspected something if he was constantly going to Moab back and forth. So,
I want a retelling of
That
Old
makes
Yeller where the dog is a town crier and it takes place in the past.
Oh.
And then it's a bigger deal that Old Yeller gets killed because no one's mails or messages are ever going to be delivered ever
I don't think
again.
that's what town criers did, Victoria.
I thought you say, I don't think that's the plot of Old Yeller.
No, that's definitely the plot of Old Yeller. I just don't think that town criers delivered the mail by yelling your personal correspondence at everyone
Why
in the town
not?
square.
Why not? It's foolproof.
Hear ye, hear ye. To Donna, hey girl, what up? You doing anything tonight?
From John to David, LOL, winky face.
Semicolon close paren. Ruth is so good. Okay, like, I mean, in the Bible already, she's so good, but in this episode, all the stuff that they add, like, okay, they already made her immediately very sympathetic by making her Katrina, actress-wise, and as great as Boaz is in these episodes, there is no moment of chemistry between him and Ruth that can hold a candle to the first moments between Ruth and Naomi when Ruth talks about Naomi calling her daughter with the same tenderness that she hasn't heard since her mother died. And the chemistry in that scene blows anything
Okay,
else
but
in these
like
episodes
also
out
at
of
the
the
same
water.
time, who says that?
Who says what?
Like
Oh, who says,
No.
like, oh, you remind me of my dead mother on
No,
the
like-
first meeting?
the after she says one word, like if someone came up to me, it's like, "Hi, nice to meet you," and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, you said hi." Just like my first grade teacher did before they were hit by a bus. It's so nice to meet you, and then they'd be like, "Oh my gosh."
It's a little bit different.
Yeah, because, like, you haven't had a mother for years.
Uh-huh.
And then you go and you do have a mother. And she, even though you're, like, kind of... Because the Israelites would not usually associate with them. So it's like, even though she's from Moab, it's immediately calling her daughter. I
Yeah,
think
that's true.
really special.
Mm-hmm.
Just like, finally, I have girls. I just have these two really sick boys. I've always wanted
One
a
of them is
daughter.
real short.
Finally, I have children who can do a lap around the room without passing out.
Honestly, at the beginning of the episode, and he said like, "Oh, what about you? You can't walk across the room without like sitting on the
And
ground
you were
and
like,
coughing."
boy, save.
And I was just like, "That is me."
It's interesting to me with Malon and Killian here, who they say Chillian. There's no ch sound
He's
in Hebrew
really
that I can
chill.
recall.
No, he's just like a really cool guy.
Because it's
he's
chet.
really laid back. Get it? Because he's dead.
Because chet would be the letter there, I would assume. So it'd be Killian or Chillian.
Killian.
Yeah.
Killian,
your
it's
favorite
so
Once
nice
Upon a
to
Time
meet
character.
you.
It's interesting that Connie claims in her telling of it that Malon and Killian died like 10 years apart. And in scripture it just says it says like 10 years passed and they died. It doesn't say when in that period. But if it was spread out,
Yeah.
like Connie said, like on either end, and Malin died first, then wouldn't Ruth have remarried to Killian in that decade as her kinsman redeemer? Not that that couldn't have happened, but I feel like that would have come up in scripture if it was like, oh yeah, Malin died, and then Ruth was married to his brother for 10 years, then he also died, and she's like, okay, gotta find her third husband now.
But what about Orpah? She was married.
Yeah? She was married to Killian, who died at the end.
Yeah.
And they were both married to Killian. That's how it would have worked.
Okay.
Marriage was a little different then.
So, I don't know. It's strange to me because it's like, Connie, it seems like a plot hole, but it's a plot hole that Connie made up that isn't in the
Yeah.
original text. So I'm like, why did you? It doesn't add any drama to it to have to separate their death set like that. It just makes it more confusing.
That's another thing that happens in a lot of adaptations. It's like, why did you add this? It just had 6 plot holes, and they're like, no, it's better this way. It's better our way. I'm not saying that's what Focus is doing. Let me make that very clear. I'm just making...
Hashtag the Noah movie.
Yeah, the Noah movie with Emma Watson.
It made my mom so angry we couldn't talk to her the rest of the evening.
I remember that. Oh man, I remember like I saw her a couple days later and she was still like really, really mad.
I never saw the Noah movie, but one of my
I
good
watched
friends,
like the Honest trailer for it and it like boiled my blood.
one of my good friends from our ministry group, who has almost finished his film degree, saw it and had a lot of good things to say about like really interesting and like brave places they went with the morals they expressed in. Like, even though they were obviously diverting a lot from scripture with the spirit of it, that a lot of the ideas that they were able to capture in it spiritually were like really cool, that they were able to show that in a way that you normally wouldn't be able to show in that sort of movie to that audience. But I can't have the context to back it up because I haven't actually seen it personally, nor do I know specifically about what he was talking.
Rock giants.
I know. I do know that much.
Fight them.
Instead of talking about God did this for us, it's like we got this blessing from this dude who talks to God, and because of the person's blessing, not because of God, things happened this way.
Also, like, Emma
Yeah.
Watson gets pregnant or something like that, and Moses tries to, like, murder her immediately.
Moses was there? Wow. This,
Or not Moses, I meant Noah.
I can see why people found it so inaccurate.
I meant Noah. Moses
Yeah.
was there. He fought the rock giant.
Yeah, he like put
Yeah.
his staff down and the Red Sea crashed in on the rock giants and he destroyed them with erosion.
Turns out Noah is the jump festa of Bible stories.
So, yeah, we come towards the end of the episode, which is kind of like the most iconic thing in Ruth, where Naomi tries to turn Orpah and Naomi away. I don't think I've ever mentioned this on here. I in my mind, I feel like I always feel like it's a thing that lots of people know, but I guess it probably isn't, that Oprah Winfrey is named after Orpah.
I
Ruth's
didn't know
cousin.
this until you told me.
Yeah, her parents meant to name her Orpah, and there was a typo on the birth certificate, and they were like, Oprah's cool too. Like, they literally just flipped the R and the P when they typed it.
I would be angry if that happened. I would get them.
Well, they could have fixed it, but they were like, that sounds cool too. And then she just did Oprah, and now she's like super famous and stuff, and that's where her name comes from.
They invented a name like Shakespeare.
And not just invented a name, but one of the few people who can get away with having like a brand built on just one of their names, like just being like Cher or Kesha kind of thing. Like, this is my name.
Can you imagine if I was Garbiella, though?
I would love you either way. I just thought of Garbo Man, though.
I know that's what I'm surprised there's no Garbo Man space on the board in Hardcore Tabletop.
Yeah. No, we were talking about...
That's what the jail icon should have been.
We were talking about, like, what's that term for names that are, like, the same still?
Homonyms? Oh, the Tiffany effect.
Yeah.
Or the Tiffany problem.
Yeah. I was thinking, like... I was trying to remember, because I know Shakespeare made a lot of names.
Uh-huh.
I can't think of what any of them are now. For some reason, I thought Leah was one, and I was like, no, that doesn't make any sense, because there are, like, Leahs in the Bible. And then
Leos?
Leah.
Oh, yes.
I was thinking, like, and I felt bad for Leah, like, no, what's his name?
You're getting there.
Oh, what's his name?
Jacob,
thank you. Because I don't know. What's that lady's name? Who is, like...
Penina?
Yeah, Penina. She kind of, like, comes off... She's, like, the foil to Penina. Almost, like, the inverse of her.
I would call them foils,
Or
given that they
foils,
lived in different periods
but,
of history.
Like, she wasn't mean,
No,
though.
yes.
And she kind of still had, like, the same thing going on as Penina. But, like, she wasn't loved. And that kind of makes me sad. And her name means weary. And that just makes me sad. I know her name means weary.
I wonder why.
Because, yeah. Because I do. Anyway, tangent.
So,
really quick tangent.
Ruth is about to head back to Israel. You really have to respect how much Ruth loved her daughters, that she would rather release them.
You mean Naomi?
Naomi?
Naomi's love for her daughters, that she would rather release them from their bonds of carrying on her family line, which is like the hugest thing for her people, and allow them to be alone, than force them to stay with her when she thought that that was what would make them happier and more fulfilled. Like, she cared so much more about them than herself. And there's and I brought it up when we were studying it, the super cool thing about Ruth's famous declaration of love for Naomi and God is that I learned a little while ago that she's considered the first ever convert to Judaism.
Which doesn't really make sense to me.
It does make sense.
Because, like, you would think there'd be other people
converted to I explained Judaism. Why. She's considered the first formal convert to Judaism. We were talking about this when we were studying it, but converting to Judaism is like a very codified process. And basically at the end of it, like, once you've shown to your rabbi that you're devoted and committed and stuff, you will ask them to allow you to become a Jew. And they will say, no, you may not. A second time you ask, a second time they deny you. Third time you ask, and then they will bless you and pray, and you are now Jewish. Conceptually, it all makes a lot of sense in line with, like, Jewish traditions surrounding themes of questions, repetition, and persistence and stuff. Like, you can see lots of themes in both biblical Jewish culture and modern Jewish culture that play into the way that that works. And the really cool thing here with Ruth is that you can see the structure in Ruth's story, because she and Orpah decide to travel back to Israel with Naomi and join her faith in her land. So that's their first time they're like, yes, we're going back with you. And then she denies them on the way out of Moab, telling them to turn back. So that's the first denial. And then Orpah complies, but Ruth persists, insisting a second time she's going to Israel. Naomi denies her a second time, saying, Orpah has already returned to Moab. Ruth, you should go with her. Your cousin has gone ahead of you. A third time, Ruth holds her ground, recites her famous and heartfelt monologue of loyalty and love. And then Ruth is like, fine, you can come with me. My God is now your God, my people your people. And so she follows this very specific structure that is now followed by everyone who converts to Judaism. And so that is why she's considered the first formal convert to Judaism. And once again, I'd like to point out that all the smart things that we say, we either learned from Adventures in Odyssey, or if we're talking about Adventures in Odyssey, then it's something we learned from somewhere else. Because the thing about converting Judaism, I learned from Orange is the New Black.
And the thing about the repetition, my mom and I learned at a service at our church, and then we told Devin.
No, I know about because I know lots of stuff about Jewish culture.
That's the reason I knew it.
I learned about Ruth being considered the first formal convert from a bunch of Tumblr posts about Judaism, and then I've made the connections together when you're reading and notice how the patterns fit together. Yeah.
It's impressive. Oh, sorry, Gabe.
Oh, I was just going to say, and I've read the whole Bible and I know nothing.
That's okay. I'm the opposite of that, but I still know nothing. Is there anything else you have to say about the episode, Gabe, that you haven't gotten to yet?
I really, really liked the amount of, like, emotion with which Ruth's famous speech was delivered.
It is very
It's
well delivered.
so good.
Yeah.
I got really emotional. Did you get emotional?
To be honest, I was driving, so no.
That's
But
fair. It's
I did
good
not
not
get
to cry and drive. It's safe.
Don't cry and drive, kids.
I'm so
Also,
bad
don't
at
drive,
not doing
kids.
it. Though. Don't drive.
Kids
I
don't
almost got hit
drive.
today, so yeah.
Yeah, no, all of the lines between Naomi and Ruth are delivered like so
Mm-hmm.
tenderly, and it's so
And-
beautiful.
I feel like I've said this in the past, but like I know we haven't gotten there yet, but I just want to say it.
We're not gonna have
Every-
anything left to say in
no.
part 2.
Every single time Boaz, after like his exchange with Oren, says yes, and he laughs a little bit, and he says Ruth, like I can hear angels. Like he's so beautiful. He's so happy. And it's so pure, and it's so beautiful, and that is, like, next to Ruth's monologue, that is, like, the best thing for me delivery-wise in this, like, entire two-parter.
I never wondered until going through it this time how old both of them are.
Well, Boaz is like, I'm, like, super old, and she's like, it's fine. And he's like, no, you don't get it. I'm super old.
I'm so old.
And also, he was, like, really drunk at the moment, so he's just, like, really sad, and he's lying in a pile of hay.
He's just
He's like, I'm
sorry,
old.
a pile of hay would be fine. He was in a
Right.
pile of grain.
Right? He's like, Ruth, and you don't get, I'm so old, and I'm so drunk. And it's really dark.
I mean, in fairness, at least, like, Ruth was of marrying age a decade ago.
Yeah.
So she was at least an adult.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So she's, like, 24 now, or whatever.
At least, yeah.
I hate
So,
that
yeah.
people got married at 14 back then, but I understand.
Apparently,
that
it was a
a
lot
thing.
less common, though, than we're led to believe. Like,
Oh, that's
people getting
good.
married just after puberty was basically relegated to, like, royalty and nobility. And apparently
Well,
commoners
that's
in the Middle Ages and stuff and
not
before
that bad.
mostly got married, like, at 18 or 20 and stuff, and, like, actual adults.
Wasn't Mary, like, 16?
Yeah, but she was betrothed. She wouldn't have been married for, like, another year. So
Oh,
even
okay.
still.
Yay!
And then, so yeah, and Connie's like, if you want to hear the rest, come back to my Bible study. And I was
What
like,
a troll!
it's impressive, honestly, that Connie's little impromptu Bible study has persisted for so long. Because it started in album 4, when she was a fresh-faced Christian learning with, like, Robin and Oscar. And they're like, let's look at the Bible together. All the way into the last mention I could think of is album 39, when she was missing it because of Mitch. And that's the last time I can think of it. I'm sure there's more
Alright,
past
yeah.
that. But that's, like, a long time for something that began as such, like, a spur-of-the-moment kind of little thing that she
I
did.
remember, like, with Mitch, they're like, Connie, you missed your Bible study. And when I was younger and I hadn't listened to that much Odyssey, I was like, oh, that's not bad, though, that she missed
Yeah,
I
because
think
you
a
didn't
Bible
realize.
study. And then I didn't know that it was her Bible study that she is in charge of. So, like, yeah, that's a bigger deal. Also, in that episode where her dad blows her off and, like, doesn't come to visit, and then she
fences.
preaches on how men are horrible by taking all these verses out of context. She's like, men came from the dirt, and then she has, like,
Men are
quote-unquote,
vermin
what
and
are
the
they-
scum of the earth.
what do they
Isaiah,
call
whatever.
themselves? Like the Men Haters Club, and they lock Eugene in a closet, and they chase Oscar up
Up
a
a
tree, and he's
Oh.
stuck there for like a whole day, and it's so funny, but
Okay,
I feel
but
so bad for all of them.
Honestly, same if Bill Kendall was your father, right? Like, if I had to deal with Bill, I would feel the same way.
But yeah, that was a thing that happened.
Better Connie blaming Bill than blaming, like, his 18,000 romantic interests, which is the other route that she could have taken.
That's true. Also, like, when she actually does talk to all Bill's wives or girlfriends, she's actually, like, really, really nice and stuff.
Yeah, because they
And-
all have a common enemy, which is Bill.
Bond
Oh,
over
you also
how
understand what it's like to deal with
horrible
my father.
Bill Kendall is.
But that's neither here nor there. That is the end of part 1. Any additional notes, Gabe, before we move on?
Nope.
So, we won't rate it yet because
I
it's
totally
two-parter.
forgot we were recording part 2 right now.
Yes. So, that will be the end of this episode. We'll switch over to different future recording to wrap up this episode. So, Gabe, you can say goodbye because you won't be with us once we go over to the other side.
No, we're gonna lose you!
Gabe.
Gabe, no!
So, we did it. We talked about 2 episodes.
Yay!
Finally, we did it, Victoria. We finally managed to review episodes.
Do I look
Finally
like...
checked off. No, yes.
Do I look like Kermit?
Absolutely, you do. Like, eerily, like, the height of the hood and the way it ripples on both sides is, like, eerily perfect. Become
a beekeeper!
Um,
The bees are nothing to fear. Donald, it's Goofy. They put bugs in him. This is my favorite video on the internet now.
Next time, we are doing another movie review. It's been a couple months. We're talking about Electric Christmas. And then after that, Electric Christmas 2 Boogaloo.
Was the last one that we watched?
Avalanche.
Oh, man. I'm almost excited for the next movie. I want to see Jesse beat up everyone, every character.
I think this...
I want to see her fight Sherman.
Electric Christmas, I assume, is basically going to be the poorly animated version of, like... I always forget the name of the movie. The one with all the lights, the Christmas movie.
Deck the Halls?
Is it Deck the Halls? Because I was going to say Deck the Halls. I'm like, no, that's not right.
Oh, it's either Deck the Halls...
The one with Danny DeVito?
Yeah, it's Deck the Halls.
Okay. Kristen Chenoweth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it has Matthew Broderick.
Yes.
Yeah. I didn't know he was Simba for the longest time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
And by that, I mean, like, about 14, but it's still such a revelation to me, and I don't know why. I imagine Electric Christmas is just going to be a very bad handheld cam footage of the Electric Main Street Parade at Christmas in Disneyland.
It's like Undeck the Halls, but like found footage Blair Witch Project version.
Yeah. But they didn't actually get footage of anything.
It's like the end, and then the last shot is like the camera turns, and over there you see the Parkers frozen to death in their car in the woods.
I was gonna say like the audio shot, so it's just like sounds terrifying.
You just hear the swoosh of the camera turn.
It's just like and then you like they accidentally drop the camera and they pick it up and they turn around and Mickey's just right there.
So that's what we're doing next time. Until then, thank you for joining us on our side of the YouTube. I've been Devin Francis, also known as Leonard Meltzner.
And I am Foy Gox or whatever.
Yeah, that's what it was. I was trying to remember.
Yeah.
That's it.
When I died in Kingdom Hearts 2, they took my body and they made a dad of